County School Board meeting, our May 14th business meeting here at the Aquilina House Center. And we'll begin with our school board person, Ashley, to introduce our guests.
Hi there. So this evening we have Javion Kelly, who is a fourth grader at Oak Ridge Elementary School, who will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Some school activities that he's involved in are the Elevated Eagles Club and Garden Club. He is a member of the AB Honor Roll and is interested in football, fitness, and Fortnite. Javion?
Come on up and lead us in the pledge.
You can stand up there if you want us to stand. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Great job.
Thank you. And next, joining us for the thought of the day is Azari Murphy, who is also a fourth grader at Oak Ridge Elementary School. And he is a member of the Elevated Eagle Club and Art Club, is also on the honor roll, and some interests include playing video games, math. He wants to play professional baseball, and his favorite color is blue, and his favorite food is mac and cheese.
Great.
Good evening. The inspirational thought of the day is always remember you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and love more than you know.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful. We would like for these fine Oak Ridge students and have their parents and any family members who are here to stand to be recognized for a great job on raising up these young people. Family. We'd also like to recognize the administration I see are here, the principal and so forth. Y'all stand on up, and any faculty in Oak Ridge. We're very proud of you. It's such a nice way to start our meeting. Thank you so much.
Good
Now,
job.
one thing we do tell you students is we know you have homework and it's a school night, and we say that to the teachers too that have come. So thank you for coming, and if you need to go, it's okay. We're going to go on with our business meeting, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have the changes and additions. Ms. Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a long list, so I apologize in advance, but we have to read any changes into the record. So, the superintendent is recommending the following changes and additions to the agenda for tonight. Item 7.01 replaces documentation related to the minutes from April 23rd, 2019 to reflect comments from Board Member Jones. Number 2, adding item 19.06. The superintendent recommends approval to advertise amendments to policy 7530.01 related to staff use of personal communication devices and newly proposed policy 7530.02, staff and school official use of wireless communication, and policy conducting district business using electronic communication for a public hearing and adoption on June 18th. Adding item 19.07, the superintendent recommends approval to advertise amendments to policy 5120 regarding school choice. Item 19.05, adding documentation regarding the Distinguished Young Gentleman of America agreement. Adding item 5.06 under reports to be heard, academic services updates by Jillian Gregory, Assistant Superintendent. Adding item 3.01, the Superintendent's Spotlight, a special presentation by County Commissioner Nick Maddox, Executive Director for the Foundation for Leon County Schools. Adding item 19.08, and under items of consideration is a partnership between the Leon County School Board and the Capital City Children's Day, June 9th, 2019. School board members ask that this be added. Adding item 23.01, continuing concerns from board members, the traffic calming at Jim Lee Road and Orange Avenue, an analysis of traffic calming devices district-wide by school board member Jones. Adding item 24.01, cultural sensitivity training, school board member Bowen has requested this conversation. Adding item 5.02, Abigail Hanson from the Student District Advisory Council. Item 19.05, replacing documentation regarding the Distinguished Young Gentleman of America agreement. I believe that concludes the superintendent's recommendations for changes and additions tonight.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Bowen, seconded by Ms. Striplin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Next is the superintendent's spotlight, and we have a special presentation. I understand that Heather Thomas is here for Nick Maddox, so Heather, if you'll come forward.
Hey there, I'm looking at you. I'm Heather Thomas. I'm editor of Tallahassee Magazine, but I'm also the chair of the Foundation for Leon County Schools. I'm also a former high school teacher and a student in the Leon County school system. So it is with really great pleasure and an honor to present you to Ashley an award of $500 from the foundation for the outstanding leadership you have demonstrated this year as the 2018-2019 LCS Student School Board member. I'd like to
So Ashley, we also have several gifts from me and the school board members. We have a gift card and some flowers that we'd like to present to you. Do you want to come up front? We'll take a picture with Ashley.
Yes, we do.
Ashley, I'm sure other board members are going to want to give their thanks and appreciation, but I want to start by just saying thank you for your leadership and how you represented the 34,000 students that we serve throughout Leon County, not just at Leon High School, but at all the schools. And you're a wonderful example of all that's good and all that's right in our school system. And I've always said, whether I was a teacher or time as principal at Leon, that we're here for you. And I'm not just saying that. We're here for the students that we serve and to make your years, your K-12 experience, as special as it was for me many years ago. And you're a big part of that. And you've left your legacy and your mark on this school system. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for your leadership and all the efforts you've given to help those that will follow in your footsteps. So thank you.
Anybody want to say anything?
I'd love to. Start on my end. Yep, because she's my neighbor.
It's kind of luck of the draw where you end up sitting at the dais and who your neighbor is. I have a new neighbor over here, but I have been absolutely honored to be part of your little world down here. And we are so lucky to have you. I mean, you exactly what Superintendent said, you are exemplary of the kind of students that we have here at Leon County Schools. And I love, she actually speaks up, she is involved, she advocates not only for her school and herself, but for all the high schools and all the students. I mean, she has been an integral part. She hasn't just sat down here with nothing to say. She has interjected in meetings, and I know that you're going to be so successful in life. Your parents have raised an amazingly outstanding young woman, and I know they're super proud of you, and so are we. So we wish you the best of luck. Whatever you do, you're going to be successful.
Thank you.
Well, I also would like to wish you the best as you take your next steps in life. I am certain that for you, the best is yet to come. Your deportment and deliberation and your character just shines through in every comment that you've made that have helped to inform our votes and our perspective as a part of this important body. Although a major milestone in your life, I am certain that this is just be a launch pad for even greater, bigger, and better things, and a life that I'm sure will be rich with more milestones. So congratulations to you, and best wishes for what I'm sure will be a wonderful, wonderful, and impactful life.
Ashley, I must add my voice to the chorus of others and just comment on the positive energy that you bring. It feels good to have that kind of energy from one so young and to know a little bit about what your future aspirations are. I expect one day that we will be seeing you on the big screen. And so, as we do, remember those of us who were here just before you became that famous actress. You have done an outstanding job in presenting the thoughts, feelings of your student peers. And I know that the future will be bright for you. We are here for you. And remember those of us who were the stepping stones to the greatness that you shall still become, please. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley.
Ashley, it has been such a great pleasure to watch you grow over these years. I had the privilege of knowing Ashley before she became our board member, and mostly from the stage. So while you're betting on the big screen, I'm thinking it's Broadway.
That too, yes.
But even if you do something entirely different, I know you'll be just a huge success, and your leadership skills will serve you and others well. And we just wish you all the best, and I look forward to keeping up with where you go next.
Great.
Well, let me add my voice too. University of Tampa is lucky to get you, and we look forward to more productions. You played my favorite character in Les Miserables, and just can't wait to see what happens with you. And thank you so much for your leadership and your collegiality on this board. It's not always easy being the one on the end, but you speak up when it's time, and thank you so much for doing such a great job, and we wish you all the best. You're welcome.
Say something really quickly?
Yes, you may say so.
I just wanted to thank all of you guys for such an amazing year. And going into this year, I kind of forgot that it was going to be an election year and that there was the potential of everything changing. And so it made it a little more exciting, getting to meet so many new people and so many amazing leaders. All of you really are outstanding. And all of you are great role models for me as a young leader. And I can't wait to see what all you guys are going to continue doing, because I know it's far from the end. But thank you all for your leadership and for your guidance and for letting me speak my voice and opinion and for letting me speak up. But yeah, no, I'm going to miss you guys next year.
You're going to miss you too. Thank you so much.
We young leaders have to stick together.
I don't know who you're fooling.
Isn't it the truth?
What leaders?
Young leaders.
Young. Okay.
Okay, with that,
Congratulations.
the Student District Advisory Council, Abigail Hanson, is going to give her report. And we're so happy to have you for this last meeting of your tenure.
Good evening, all. To begin with, I'd just like to report the fact that we have had 2 meetings since last I spoke with you all. And unfortunately, our attendance has been a little low of late due to the enormous number of tests going on and preparations for every student's different examinations for collegiate plans and etc. Howsoever, I feel that we have had very productive meetings focusing upon the updates from other schools and understanding what their end-of-year events entail, which has given, I think, various perspectives to the different schools that allow us to recognize ideas we have found very interesting that we could carry forward at our own schools. In addition to this, we have asked that representatives bring some underclassmen to the past 2 meetings, allowing us to demonstrate what the SDAC is meant to be about, and hopefully getting some of them excited about potentially being members in following and upcoming years. And it has been a pleasure to meet some of the underclassmen who I have no doubt will be exceptional young leaders, as well as our lovely Ashley has been. And now that we're coming to a close, we have laid what groundwork we could, and I hope that the future generations of the SDAC will be exceptionally productive and wonderful. And I also wish to thank you all for the opportunity to lead the SDAC this year. It has been such a wonderful opportunity to meet so many incredible young people, and to stand before you is truly such an honor. You all have been incredibly supportive and insightful, and I am sincerely very appreciative of this opportunity. Thank you.
Abigail, before you step away, I'd like to say the same thing I told Ashley. Thank you for taking time out of your senior year to give back to the students that we serve, and your leadership is absolutely amazing. I love the student swap idea. I think it's something we need to look at doing more of, where kids from all different parts of our community kind of walk in the shoes of someone that doesn't necessarily look like them or come from the same neighborhood that they do. I think that's a invaluable lesson we could teach our students. That was one of the things that I embraced the most during my time at Leon, was the diversity that we had at that school and that we have in this community, and for us to appreciate our differences and to embrace our differences. But you helped navigate that. Of course, I would expect nothing less from a Sale High School student
Absolutely.
than to embrace differences and diversities, and you're just a shining example of what's best about the Leon County school system, and I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving of your time and efforts.
Would anybody like to say anything?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I can start.
All right.
Abigail, of course, you know, have a special place in my heart for many reasons, and Mr. Jones saw you as well as I did, and Mr. Hanna, the Shark Tank the other night for the young entrepreneurs, and once again, you really did a great job, and so you just have so many talents, and you have such a great future ahead of you, and you're so well spoken, as I'm sure you've heard that many times, but it is a pleasure to hear you speak with such poise and grace as a young woman, and I just really look forward to the leadership that you're going to offer to your generation, because we need y'all. We really need y'all, and I think you're going to be one of the people that's going to help us find our best way forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Roseanne.
Well, I hate to not have a more original thought, but you can't even talk about you without talking about how articulate you are. And I'll never forget the first time you said, "to wit."
Yes.
And I just looked at her, I said, "to wit?"
She comes from Sale.
I'm so incredibly impressed and proud, and that you are such a tremendous example for the world to see. I wanted to take you up to the legislature because, I just feel like you are just an exemplary, just perfect example of our student body, and the best and the brightest. And so it's been a great pleasure. I get such a kick out of watching you present. I always look forward to it. So thank you for everything you've done and for giving of your time.
Yes. Abigail. Every time you step in front of the podium, that's what I want to say. Remember when we first met and I said, "What are you going to do with your life? Why are you so articulate? How did you get to be that way? And aren't you wonderful?" Remember that conversation we had here when you first stepped here? And now you're getting ready to leave us. You have just been such a wonderful role model. You're so poised, and yet you're so adult. In my culture, we would say, "Girl, you are so grown." And that is very complimentary. Please know how very much we appreciate you and all that you do and what you bring, and how very happy we are to have had you address us as a board. And the representation that you present from Sale makes us equally proud. Because when I think about how our similarities and our differences are so important, and we certainly never want those two to become meshed together, you, for me, present, I think, one of the better qualities of what we can have and show in our students. So I don't know what you're planning to do now. You might have changed your mind since we talked last. So what are you planning to do once you graduate? Have you changed your mind?
I will be attending Florida State University.
Okay.
That's
not necessarily bad. Okay.
And at the moment, I am still going in as exploratory, though I do have some more specified interests as of now, so.
More specified interests. Wonderful. Thank you. Remember those of us that you shared this with, okay? Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I too have been impressed by your deportment and your demeanor. Like School Board Member Woods described when we were at the JMI Shark Bowl. I was impressed by your infectious enthusiasm for your innovation and invention. So I know that you have all the tools and gifts and graces, as we oftentimes describe, that it takes to be successful. So I'm just delighted to have met you and know that I know I speak for all the members of the board, know that we are here as a resource for you as you continue to matriculate right here in this same community. God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir.
You are such a sweet spirit inside and out. You just are. I mean, I just think of you. You just like a little glow around you. And I remember the first night you got up, you were really nervous to get up to speak. And I felt that kinship. I get nervous every time I get up to speak. You think it gets easier, and it does the more you do it. But there's still that knee knocking. So you were so not alone, and you did such an amazing job. And FSU is. It's not what are you going to do at FSU, it's what FSU going to do with you, because there are 1,000 places for you to get involved, and you are going to make a tremendous impact. You and Ashley both. Leon County Schools is lucky to have you. We are lucky to have had you for this past year, and our whole community is very lucky to have you guys, both of you. We're so proud.
We are.
It has been an absolute pleasure to work with you this year through SDAC and through everything. Most people don't know this, but Abigail and I were actually in choir together freshman year. So it's kind of like we've come full circle. You thought you could escape me, but destiny was that we would end up working with each other again. And I think both of us have learned a lot from each other. And you're just a very poised leader. There's no other way to put it. I mean, you're very poised. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the memories from both freshman and senior year. And I look forward to seeing what you're going to do in the future.
Thank you.
So Abigail, we also have a gift for you. If you come up, and we'll present you with your gift and take a class photo. Madam Chair, before you resume the rest of our meeting, I have a request. We have some members of Leon High School student government here tonight, but I see two guys, and I've seen girls on this dais and women on this dais for the last 2.5 years. A female student school board member, female DAC representative. Y'all need to recruit some more of our gender to take up leadership roles, right? No, I'm not just saying that. I mean it. And last year at Best and Brightest, girls ruled the world. And I have a feeling I'm going to see that again Wednesday. It was not necessarily a bad thing, but we need y'all go out and recruit some more guys into your student government classes to step up, because these girls are rocking it. All right.
Yes. The people that rock the cradle rule the world, right, girls?
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Madam Chair, may I also offer an acknowledgement?
Yes.
Today at the Pineview Elementary School, I was delighted to join Mr. Bart Gunner of Rogers, Gunner, and Vaughn. They made an enormous donation to Pineview of a book fair where that every student at Pineview would be given books for the summer to read. And he's here with us today, and I just want to publicly acknowledge his generosity and philanthropy to the Pineview Elementary School in District 3 and what that's going to mean for our young people this summer, and thank him again for his generosity and what he did today. You should have seen how excited those children were as they were going through the book fair and being able to choose their own books, what that meant to them. So thank you, Bart, for what you did for us today. Leadership Tallahassee Class 20, by the way.
While we're acknowledging, I'd like to acknowledge the folks that are not here right this second because they are at Hartsfield. The mayor just gave a proclamation to the Hartsfield Chorus. They have won superiors in every category, and they have been invited to be on the main stage of Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
So we are hoping that they can get there.
Outstanding.
Very proud of Hartsfield.
Yes, we are.
Okay,
All
now
right.
we're going to get on with the written agenda. Let's see, Tyler, end of session report. Jessica.
Jessica Janesy, is here tonight from Rutledge and Senior. I asked her to come give an end-of-year session report now that the bills, a lot of the legislation has hit the governor's desk, to see what we can expect or not expect for the 2019-2020 school year. So Jessica, thank you for being here.
Good evening. Thank you guys for having me. Those are some hard acts to follow. But I am going to present to you just kind of an overview of the major bills and some of the budget language that will impact you all and some of the things you'll be grappling with as we move towards the next school year. But we have provided also reports that are far more detailed. So, if you ever need to refer to those, or we're always a resource. So please always feel like you can reach out to us in case I don't hit all the points you're interested in hearing tonight. So session ended actually on a Saturday this year. This year. They were a little delayed due to some budget negotiations, but the policy bills ended on Friday. We ended up with about 3,000 bills that were filed, and of that, only about 197 actually passed. And when you consider that of that number, there are also proclamations and some local bills and things like that, we're talking a really small percentage of bills, which has been kind of a trend the last couple of years. For us in education, what that usually means and what it meant this year is we ended up with a train bill, so a bill that had a lot of bills on it. But even for us this year, our train bill, if you will, did not have the number of bills contained within it that we've seen in the past. We had about 13 bills that are education related that passed this year, and I'll go through some of those, some obviously more impactful than others. So I'll start with our big bill. The big train this year was Senate Bill 7070. You probably heard a lot about that. That has actually already been signed by the governor. So most of the provisions within this bill go into effect on July 1st of this year, and they will now that the governor has signed it into law. So there were a couple major parts of this bill. The first was the creation of the Family Empowerment Scholarship Program, which is essentially a new voucher program. The difference between this voucher and some of the others that we have seen is the funding, where the funding comes from. So we have a tax credit scholarship program in place currently, and corporations are able to divert tax dollars that would normally be remitted to the state to this program, and that's what funded that program. This program is actually funded by the legislature, and it is to serve students, lower income students is what the design was. For this voucher program. So students that are eligible are students whose families are at the 300% of the federal poverty rate or below. Just to give you an idea of what that means, for a family of four, that's about $77,000 a year, just to give you an idea. Students whose family income is at 185% of the federal poverty rate or below, they are actually given priority with receiving these scholarships. They can use these to go to a private school of their choice. So that was a major priority for the governor. The legislature has obviously been working towards this for years, and it was included in this bill. The bill also looks at Schools of Hope, which was a program that was created in legislation a couple of years ago, and low-performing schools. And it does a couple of things. First, it takes traditional public schools out of the Schools of Hope program. So instead of being able to apply for those funds, traditional public schools will have a different program, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. It does expand the Schools of Hope in a way, in that it allows Schools of Hope operators to serve opportunity zones, which are, this was another priority of the governor, and what you really need to know about that is it essentially expands their, where they can operate. It gives, from the numbers we've seen, it looked like about 44 schools at one point to now 244. So that gives you an idea of the growth over the state of what that program would mean. For your traditional public schools, they've created the Turnaround School Supplemental Services Allocation. And these are for schools that are in or exiting turnaround status. What the schools would receive is $500 per FTE, and that's essentially to provide those wraparound services. So anything from extended day, extended year, counseling for parents and students. There's a lot of ways you could use that funding, and that is what that is designed to do. So that was what they included in there for your traditional public schools. Something that got a lot of attention the last couple of years is Best and Brightest. When the governor was elected, he indicated he wanted to see a change to that program. He wanted that SAT, ACT requirement removed. The legislature did do that, so that's no longer the way you would earn that bonus. And what they did is they've changed it, so now there are 3 kind of pathways to receive this bonus. The first is what they called a recruitment pathway. That is for newly hired teachers who are deemed to be content experts in the areas of math, science, computer science, reading, or civics. It's up to the department to determine what a content expert means. So they will come up with what those parameters are. The other 2 are for your current teachers. The first pathway would have teachers that are highly effective or effective in the preceding year and currently teaching in a school that's demonstrated academic improvement, and that is detailed in the bill what that means. So you have to be highly effective, you had to be there the year before, and your school has to be showing academic improvement. So that does mean that a teacher would have to be at a school for 2 years in order to receive that bonus. The third and final bonus is for teachers and instructional personnel, so they do expand the definition a little bit. There has been some pushback about the fact that it's very strict definition of teachers, and there are other folks at the schools who, of course, are very impactful in kids' lives and have not been eligible to receive the bonus in the past. So this does say teachers and instructional personnel that are highly effective, and they're selected by their principal based on criteria that you all will determine. Now, the catch there is the first 2 pathways, the recruitment and then the first retention one that I discussed, have a dollar amount associated in statute that they will get. The third gets what's left. So they have what's appropriated. They'll give those first 2 sets of bonuses out. What's left, those teachers and instructional personnel, that'll be divided amongst that group. So we don't know what the amount will be, but one can assume it would be less.
So a couple of things, if I can interject, Jessica. The turnaround school categorical, to explain what that is, we have some of our DA schools are receiving SIG dollars this year, and we've bought additional staff members to reduce class size. And before, those dollars, once the school comes out of DA status and earns a grade of C or better, those dollars immediately go away. So it's like putting a Band-Aid on and then ripping the Band-Aid off. What this does is kind of prolongs ripping the Band-Aid off for another year or so, which would give those schools that come out of DA status those dollars for another 2 years.
2 years, that's correct.
So that's what that categorical. The Best and Brightest categorical, the way it was before, there was the big $6,000 bonus for the SAT, ACT score, and highly effective. And then there was a $1,200 and an $1,200 bonus for highly effective teachers, and an $800 bonus for effective teachers. That was equitable, at least for everyone. The governor recommended a $400 and something million plan that was going to give $9,000 to these teachers at schools that showed a 3-point gain, and it was a mess. But the House actually, if we had to go with a bonus program, which none of us want, because we'd rather see it in their salaries, we'd rather see it go towards their retirement and count towards calculation and buying a home. But the House was going to give, I believe, $2,000 to all highly effective teachers and $1,100 to all effective teachers. Easy peasy, simple. It's equitable. Everyone receives the same amount. That isn't what happened. So what came out was this formula that first has the recruitment piece that's still to be explained by DOE of who's included in that, who's not. Then the other piece, schools that show an increase over a 3-year period of time of 3 points or more and who are deemed highly effective or effective shall be eligible to receive the bonus, right? So we're going to have in Leon County, if you look, a number of our schools that are A schools that, because their points are already so high, may not show that 3%, that 3-point growth over those years. So we'll have teachers potentially at A schools that are highly effective that will not receive a penny. And then we have other teachers at other schools that may be a C school or a D school, but because they've increased by 3 points or more over the last 3 years, those teachers will receive a nice bonus. It's a train wreck. It's simply a train wreck. And it's going to be a morale buster for our teachers. Not to mention the last part where we just pick and choose who gets money and who doesn't. So I just wanted to kind of explain a little bit before she got further down the line on those two categoricals, the turnaround money and the best and brightest money.
But there is money that the districts have discretion for distribution.
She'll get to that here in the end, but before long. That's coming probably at the end.
Yeah, thank you. You're right, and I will get to that point. So, two other pieces that were a little more positive, I think, for school districts that I want to mention. They took a look at teacher certification, and there's been some serious issues with teachers being able to take and pass the general knowledge test in the short window of time. There's also a lot of concerns with the cost of the general knowledge test. So you had teachers that were trying to get all portions passed in a year, and it was costing them hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and some of them were taking it on a monthly basis in order to hopefully pass all the portions so they could have a permanent certificate. They have taken a look at that. And what they did was essentially they've extended the period of time that you can be on a temporary certificate from 1 to 3 years. So that has the impact of allowing teachers basically 3 years to pass all the sections of the general knowledge test. Additionally, they codified some of what the state board did earlier this year. So when the discussion kind of started in the legislature, the state board took action with regard to the fees associated with the test. Because initially, when you took it the second time, it actually cost more money than it did the first time, and it really was becoming quite a financial burden for some folks. So they have put limits on what fees can be associated with the test. They've also mandated that the portions of the test have to equal up to what one taking of the test would be. So if you think the test costs $100 and there are 4 parts of it, each part must just cost $25. You can't charge $50 or $75 for one portion, so that it would actually be more if they were to take them all separately. So that is all in here, and that was certainly positive. And there was some positive movement with regard to school construction. I know you all aren't necessarily building right now, but there are some districts that are, and they have had some major problems with some of the red tape and regulations that were associated with school construction. And many of those barriers were eliminated in this bill. So I'll just highlight some of them. There is no longer the requirement that new construction and remodeling projects be included on your educational plant survey. A survey recommendation is no longer recommended when you use essentially local funds, so any taxpayer-approved bond referendums, your 1/2 cent sales tax, 1 cent local government surtax, those types of dollars, you no longer need a survey recommendation. They also changed the board approval from a supermajority to a majority, and they're requiring that the Office of Economic and Demographic Research review and adjust the cost per student station calculation to reflect actual construction costs. They have to do that by January 1st of 2020, and then they have to do it annually thereafter. So hopefully it will keep up with what the actual cost to build is. Again, I know that won't affect everyone right away, but hopefully down the road, everyone will be building at some point, and that will have a positive impact. I'll turn to the budget because I realized I jumped right into the policy, and I should have looked at my slides. If you could move to the next slide, I'll show you some specific Leon County budget numbers. So we did see an increase this year, and certainly it was a positive increase based on what we've seen in the last couple of years where we have not seen a lot of extra dollars out there. The base student allocation was essentially raised about $75 per student, but what's important to note, and that is wonderful, that is certainly great news, but there are some things to consider. The digital classrooms allocation that was $70 million last year was down to $20 million this year. So depending on what you all did with those funds, you'll receive less money this year, so that needs to be considered. Also, your employer FRS employee rates have also gone up. That'll cost, we estimate, based on Jim and I's calculations, about $400,000 additionally this year. So those are some things that you need to kind of keep in mind when you're looking at your budget. You're looking at about, when you take out all of the things that are included, so best and brightest is included in that big number that you'll see in the newspapers and things like that, but of course that already has a place it has to go, right? So when you take all of that out, you're looking at like a 1.7% increase that you have to work with.
And yesterday, Ms. Banks and Ms. Coughlin gave a detailed explanation to the board members of that. Don't be deceived by that $9.5 million, because in reality, once you take out best and brightest, the other categoricals, along with the increased contributions to FRS and healthcare, it's really about 3.2 or 3.3, which is still better than nothing.
Yeah,
but
still good. You know, we'll take that rather than a reduction, right? But certainly, it's not. When you see the whole picture, you see that it's not quite as large as it maybe seems when you initially look at the dollar amounts. I'll move now to school safety. That was our other big bill. We knew there would be a bill after last year's school safety bill that was written in about 2 weeks. We figured that there would be something, and sure enough, there was. I'll go through some of the high points, but I'll tell you, Jim and I are working on a side-by-side, and this will hopefully help staff, of last year's bill and this year's bill to look at the mandates from last year, the things that have changed this year. So they've built upon some of the mandates. They've gotten rid of some things. They've added some things. They've made a lot of tweaks, and we could spend hours on it. But we're going to work on that to get that to staff so that hopefully with implementation it will help, because it is extensive. So I'll just touch on some of the high points. The Guardian program, this got a lot of attention. Teachers were added to the list of individuals who can serve as a guardian. This did not change anything with regard to the program in the sense that it's not a mandate. It's still something you opt into. But they did also make a change that said that if a school board votes to participate in the Guardian program, the sheriff has to create one. So last year there had to be the agreement of the two local leaders. This year it would be on the school board. It also would allow individuals to go get training from another sheriff. So let's say in a neighboring community, you had a sheriff who had started a Guardian program, they could receive training there as well. They also codified the 3 kind of different ways that districts have implemented the Guardian program. So to make it so that everyone knows that they're doing something that's actually legal and okay. The first is the pure Guardian program, which is when you have an employee who goes through this training, and then in addition to their duties, they are also a guardian. That's the first. The second is if districts choose to actually just hire individuals. We have had some districts that just hired folks who went through the training, and then their sole job is school security. And then lastly, and this has happened more, I believe, in some of our big districts, they've contracted with a security firm who provides those individuals, but they do have to go through the Guardian program. So that's important to note also. And then it did state in the bill that in order to be a guardian, the superintendent has to designate you the guardian. So there was some confusion in some areas about, is it the sheriff, because the sheriff has the program, who makes that determination? In this case, it now says that it is definitely the superintendent.
So we're obviously on the record how we feel about this program. We don't need to go there again, although I did last week. But one interesting thing that we also found out was that charter schools could request, if they so choose, to implement the Guardian program. So one of our 4 charters could come to us, apply, and then it would be left up to us as to whether or not we approved. Even if we did not grant them permission, they could still go around us and get permission. And even if they did not get the go-ahead and training from our local sheriff, they could partner with a neighboring sheriff and receive the training. So we may indeed have a new charter school that approaches us about wanting to implement the Guardian program, which is their prerogative. They have their own board and their own jurisdiction. And I think we've spoken often about how we feel in Leon County with our traditional public schools, but we may indeed, I would not be surprised if we had a charter school that did approach us with that proposal.
Would there be any liabilities that we'd be responsible for in this regard, Mr.
Yeah, so the other part of the legislation, and I talked to Jessica about this at the end of last week, was that if we denied a charter permission to participate in the Guardian program, that we would be responsible of 100% of their security costs. So there's a little gamesmanship, strategy, politics, wherever you want to call it, in play with this issue. But I think where I am is if we have a charter school that says they want to, that their board voted and they would like to implement the Guardian program at their site, it doesn't affect our traditional public school system. That's their prerogative, as opposed to us saying no, and then having to foot the bill 100% of their security costs.
And as we've seen with whatever version of whether it's an SRO, a law enforcement officer, whatever the various districts are doing, everyone seems to be in the red. So if you were to take on 100%, you would then be taking on that extra cost because everyone's operating seemingly in the red with no matter what program they've decided to do. Another thing this bill did was look at school hardening. And there's been a lot of discussion and quite frankly, some frustration amongst legislators about where do we tell schools to begin? We see that there are so many different ways to help improve the safety of our schools, but everyone wants to know, where do we start? Do we start with cameras? Do we start with single point of entry? What do we do? So they've decided to form a work group that is part of their task is going to be coming up with a prioritized list for what should be done when it comes to school hardening. And in addition to those strategies, the prioritized strategies, they're also supposed to come with estimated costs and some timeframes that can be used to help guide districts. And that is due to the department by August 1st of 2019. So they don't have a lot of turnaround time here. So we'll see that soon.
And that categorical was basically cut in half, Jessica, from 100 to 55 or 50 or 55. So last year we received about $1.2 million in school hardening, which Chief Hunkeyar is overseeing along with Jimmy Williams and Buddy Triquet as they're going around increasing fencing, security cameras, single points of entry. A lot of it we did on the front end, but they have a list of projects that they're going to continue to work on with that $1.2 million. So if we just took 50% of that, maybe we could expect $500,000 or $600,000 to be added to that for the next year. And they wrote grants for this money to begin with. Correct, John? Yes, they wrote grants for all that categorical, and they'll continue to do the same thing as we go around and try to increase or beef up what we've already done.
And that's right. So, we figured they would keep with some of this program, but we knew that the funding probably last year was probably the high water mark, and we hope that it will continue in the years to come, but I think the level that we saw was probably the highest that we're going to see for a good long while. And just to touch just for a moment on funding, they did change the way you will actually get your Safe Schools allocation, and it has changed from now it'll be 1/3 of your allocation is based on the crime index and 2/3 based on your population, as opposed to the reverse, which is what it was, 2/3 based on the crime index, 1/3 based on your total student population.
We've talked a little bit about that before, and unfortunately, because our crime index in Leon County is high as compared to like-sized counties across the state, we've received more money, which is a good thing, but it's not a good thing. I attended the all-in press conference with the Sheriff's Department today, and we hear time and time again about the small, sleepy town that I grew up in has become a shooting gallery, and more violence than ever. If we read about it in the local paper or hear about it on 11 o'clock news, I just don't get it. But so we'll receive an additional, I think, $230,000 in Safe Schools, and we know we operate in the red. What, Naomi? Probably $500,000 or more. So this will help. It'll be the red, but it won't be as red. It'll turn a little pink. Which will help us to offset the cost of all the security monitors and the security efforts that we have. It's tied back to the crime index in Leon County.
And this bill was also signed by the governor. So our two big bills have already been signed into law, and most of the provisions in both of the bills go into effect July 1st. So that's when we'll start to see these things hit and start moving. There were a couple other bills that I do want to mention. One that was one of the last bills passed on the last night of session, which is the tax package. And actually, as I was coming here today, I saw that the governor actually received this bill, so he's going to have to decide how he wants to act on it. Of course, there are many things in this bill that have nothing to do with us, but there are two things I want to mention. One, the back-to-school tax holiday that we've had for a number of years. This year will be August 2nd through the 6th. And then, even more importantly, there was language about sharing referenda money, and you probably heard about that. What we ended up with, and there was a lot of back and forth that night, but where we landed is it is all prospective. So these are things that will be passed after July 1st of this year, assuming that the bill is signed into law. And additionally, it is only for property tax millages for school operational purposes. So if you do pass one of those on or after July 1st of this year, then you would have to share it with your charter schools. It would have to be used by them in the same manner as it is described in the referendum. So if you say it is for teacher salaries, if you say it's for this certain program, whatever it is you decide, that is how it would have to be used by them. But it does not impact anything that you get right now. It is only things passed in the future.
So a half penny renewal would then go before the ballot would have to be shared, right?
if half penny if it's
Renewal,
property
so-
tax, yes,
yeah, so-
when it's renewed.
Right.
Correct.
So if it sunsets in 2028, when it's renewed, it would have to then be shared with charter schools.
Correct. In the manner
Well,
that.
I'm gonna make one more comment about 77. Are you finished? Are you gonna, or you got a couple of those?
Yeah, I've got, but I'm
Go ahead.
happy to do whatever. Just a few more, and these are not nearly as impactful, but I'll just mention them. There was a bill passed dealing with immunizations that will allow information to be shared from the Department of Health. So they have a registry that doctors submit information to when children get their shots. This will allow, if the parent agrees, the district to access that information, and then the parent doesn't have to bring that piece of paper to the school district showing that their child was immunized. They can opt out, and there doesn't change anything with the opt out of parents who choose not to have their children immunized. This is just if parents choose, this will hopefully eliminate some paperwork and hassle. There was also a bill looking at career and tech programs. This was another thing that the governor was very interested in, and as is the legislature. So I'll just mention a couple things that this bill does. Essentially what they're trying to do is encourage your career and tech and apprenticeship programs. That's the goal of this legislation. And so they do a couple things to do that. Students who have an industry certification can then earn 2 mathematics credits for Algebra 1. You can have a computer science credit substitute for a math or science credit as well. The financial literacy, which for those of you who have been listening to my reports for many, many years, this has been something, it's got to be at least 5 years that we've been looking at this. They did get language about financial literacy, but it only requires it to be offered as an elective. So it's not the graduation requirement, which is what they were going for, and that could certainly impact a lot of your work. This is a streamlined version of that.
It says it has to be a course offering, but it's not a mandatory graduation requirement to take the course.
Exactly. So you just have to offer it. Nobody has to take it, unless they want to. We're going to have a college and career decision day that recognizes high school seniors for their post-secondary education and career plans. And for those of you who have worked in education for many years, this might sound familiar. We're going to have a middle grades career planning course requirement now, which was something we had a long time ago, and it
They had to
disappeared.
declare the major and the minor. Are you serious? Now it's in middle school. It was in ninth grade. Now they're going to back it up.
Now it's middle
So
school.
6th graders will be able to tell us what they want to do the rest of their lives, right? Okay.
I can only imagine what I would have said. So that there's a number of other things in there, but those are some of the highlights in that bill. Just a few other bills I want to mention. House Bill 5, which has many things on there that are not related, but it does have language that requires that a referendum be held on a general election. So you may have heard over the years there's been a lot of discussion about that requirement, also possibly making it, a 60% requirement, 2/3 perhaps. None of that's in there. It's just the date, so it would have to be held on a general election. But generally speaking, at least when it comes to our education referendum throughout the state, there's been a lot of success on the general elections referendum of late. So those are really the big ones. There are a number of others that are included in my report that, will hit some spots for various staff, but those are the big issues this year. We are having an early session next year, which means they'll start in January. And in fact, we also got this afternoon the official committee meeting dates. September. So we're going to have a week in September, 2 in October, 2 in November, and then in December, which means we're really kind of back to work on all this very soon. What that often means is these things that are here, these things that failed to pass, will definitely be back. They usually are anyhow, but when we have this condensed period of time, it's even more likely. So school board term limits, you saw that was something that died in the Senate. One would think, given the makeup of the Senate and the fact that it's not going to change, perhaps that will have the same fate, but you can't count on anything with the legislature. There were a couple of bills dealing with instructional materials changes and looking at the adoption. That I'm sure will be back again. One even went so far to really kind of mandate a adoption of all the supplemental materials that are used at schools. So that will more than likely be back again. Restraint and seclusion has been an issue at least the last 5 years, and that'll likely be back again. There were bills dealing with drinking water in public schools. That's the lead in the water issue that died. but that is likely to be back. Something that
For the
we've been
leaders.
working on, and there has been a lot of movement towards this, is the employment after retirement for your instructional personnel. And there's also been a push for law enforcement officers, if you want to hire them for security purposes after they retire, allowing them to come back earlier so it doesn't impact their retirement. And then there was a bill to repeal the CRC, the Constitutional Revision Commission. They were not necessarily happy with all the work that they did this year, and so there was a bill to repeal them. It didn't pass. But those are things that we can kind of have on our radar. And then as we move forward, we know there's going to be a lot of work with regard to standards because of the governor's executive order. So the DOE has been receiving feedback about what changes folks in the community would like to see with regard to standards. The department has indicated that at the end of September or early October, they plan to have their first kind of round of suggestions for changes, so that then they can get further feedback, and then they will have their recommendations to the governor by January of 2020. That could have a huge impact depending on how far they go with standards. You know, we could be looking at changes to our test, not to mention, of course, just instruction that goes on at schools, and then your adoption process and all of that stuff. So we're going to be watching that in the coming months as well.
A couple of comments, Jessica. Thank you so much for a wonderful report. And then I'll ask them if they have any questions. One, career and tech ed was positive. That seemed to be an issue that cut across party lines. Both the Democrats and the Republicans supported enhancing what we were doing in career and technical education, which is encouraging. The instructional materials were on hold until we figure out what's going on or not going on with the Florida standards and Common Core and the governor's review of our current standards, which Jillian talked about as far as adoptions. We're just kind of treading water until we get a better sense of the direction that we're going as a state. And then, the most concerning thing is the vouchers and the expansion of vouchers to private schools and coming straight from the legislature, not as a tax credit scholarship, not as taxes from a sale of an automobile like the Bully Bill, but this coming directly from the legislature is very concerning. That it's raised the threshold to 300% of the poverty level, which is $77,000. When I met with the commissioner, I asked him, point blank, what was his end game philosophically, and he said lower middle. This was it, lower middle class, because my assumption was they would take it to just about everybody, no matter your income level, would receive an opportunity to get this voucher. Whether he's truthful or not, I don't know. I guess the future will tell us that. But he said a hairdresser and a mechanic. He said that a couple of times. A hairdresser and a mechanic, $77,000 or below is where they want to land this. But it will be challenged in the courts like the last one was, and the courts repealed it. The difference this time around, as you're well aware, is the governor appointed 3 new Supreme Court members, and they have things lined up, and we'll just have to kind of see where it plays out. But it's, I remember over a decade ago standing at the steps of the Capitol when Governor Bush was in office, and knowing that this day was coming, and unfortunately it's here. So with that, y'all can entertain any questions from the board for Jessica.
It's a very thorough report, Jessica. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. And we are available, if there's any questions, anytime as you work through all of this. I know it's a lot to take in, so please feel free to always reach out to me, myself or Jim. We're always available to help.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Next, we have, I see Barbara Goldstein in the audience, and we are having a report on the Holocaust Education Resource Council, or better known as HERC.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, school board members. Thank you for having me. So this is I know that I should have sent an image, but it's hard for everybody to see, but I'll actually hold it up here and then turn around. This is our mural that was painted on the side of the Holocaust Education Resource Council building. Are you gonna hold it up? I will. Thank you. Okay, so as you can see, thank you so much. You could share it with everybody. So we're very excited. So this was painted and designed by the FSU Department of Art Education Art Therapy Program, and the students came out for 2 weeks, but it was a lot of planning before. And as you see, well, actually, no, I asked you a question. What does this look like to you?
A railroad.
A railroad?
The entrance into concentration camp.
Into where?
In the concentration camp.
Which concentration camp?
Auschwitz.
Very good. You just passed my test. Okay. Okay. Yes. So this, there was a lot of controversy when this was created, but I pushed forward, and we are very excited because it did get finished and completed with lots of praise. That the back is the concentration camp of Auschwitz, and the front is children planting flowers on the tracks, showing the life and the courage and the future going forward. And we love the meaning and the just the beautiful flower colors, because there is hope after this time of what happened. So with that said, this is on the side of the building. Thank you so much, Superintendent. Good. You want to keep it, or no? It's perfect there. Okay. So and actually, if you want to see it in person, it's right down the street, and it's a huge wall outside of the on the outside of the building. So with that said, that's taking us forward to our next conference, and you should have gotten 2 sheets of yes. So this is our very excited our next summer conference, and if you haven't been yet, come join us, because the topic is really exciting this year. It's called From SWAT Sticker to Jim Crow. So the theme is really relative today, and we're going to cover a lot of topics relating to history and the Holocaust and just human behavior and many aspects of obligation. Basically, we have this concept called universe of obligation. But the reason we're doing SWAT Sticker to Jim Crow is we're showing the film. This is an actual film, and the producer and director of the film will be at the workshop and then at the film showing on June 11th, and the film will be shown at the CMX theaters, which are next to Costco. I love it that we got a real theater to show this in, with the director there to do a Q&A. But the 2 days of Monday and Tuesday will be presented by a historian that'll be from not local historian that'll be presenting this. So back to the theme. So during the 30s, people were leaving Germany to escape, otherwise they wouldn't survive. And when they came to this country, there was a lot of prejudice against the German Jewish people, and a lot of the places where they got jobs were Southern Black universities. So it's just the movie captures the Black university and the relationship between the Jewish refugees and the Black universities where they were actually teaching, and it's a wonderful story to share. So we're going to be showing the film that night. So the teachers will be getting these 2 amazing books that I'm holding up here. I can see myself holding up the books. And these are great resource books. If anybody is going to come to the conference, they'll get these books provided to them, with other books too, of course. And these are the conferences that we do every year that the teachers have been signing up. We have right now at this time about 25 teachers, and we still have room for 25 more teachers. We're looking to get every school represented. So, Superintendent, you're going to help us with that, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And once the teachers have come to this conference, we'll be providing them with a lot of follow-up also after that. So that's really what I wanted to share. Just so you're all welcome to come for lunch, to come meet us, to meet the teachers at that day, and to be part of this. It's very exciting. I know Rosanna's come before, and it's been very important to everybody that's been there.
It's great.
Thank
you so much, Barbara, for everything you do for our school system. We so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Today, Barbara, it's more important than ever, and you recognize that.
Yeah, I just
So
want to
thank
share,
you.
thank you for reminding me that. So about a month ago, I spoke to students at Rickards High Schools. It was 150 students, the IB students, and I went to speak about, and I actually brought the image of that in a larger form. And we had a long conversation, and the questions were just very, very moving. And so I'm just getting out to the schools more, and it is more important because especially today with what's going on. And there's a lot of hate that we're just moving into a better, I'm changing it, the 4-letter word from hate to love.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Good.
Okay, next, 506, Academic Services Update. Jillian Gregory, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Board Member, Superintendent. Before you this evening, we just wanted to provide you a quick update to some of the work that we're undertaking this summer with federal programs and specifically with Title I. The first, I have a PowerPoint, but in your packet, there is a manila folder that includes a PowerPoint and handouts. On June 11th through June 13th, we have the Impact the Outcome professional development at Amos P. Gabi High School for all Title I teachers. They will be paid for their time, featuring keynote speakers and breakout sessions led by Ron Clark, Dr. Ruby Payne, Principal Salome Thomasel, Wade and Hope King, who are the authors and presenters in Get Your Teach On, Lanisha Tab, Richard Lavoie, Sean Hurt, many others, including a panel discussion on girls in leadership and business with women leaders in our community. We've also partnered with FSU, FAMU, and we have faculty from Johns Hopkins also presenting on that during that conference. It is a 3-day conference, and so we are super thrilled to have our staff working on that. And the Title I staff and Miss Marsh and Miss Scott are taking the lead on really organizing all of this. We will have continental breakfast, lunch, bags, prizes, awards, and as PD points for all of our teachers, as well as a stipend for each hour that they are participating in, up into 18 hours per teacher, because it's 6 hours over 3 days. So we are super excited about that. The other initiative. We are.
Hold on 1 second before you go on, Julie. I want to. This is going to be an amazing conference. I mean,
Yes, I know.
to bring those names. I mean, those are some heavy hitters. Ron Clark and Ruby Payne and some of these. I mean, and we spend schools individually have spent tens of thousands of dollars going to Atlanta or Tampa to get these people. So we're saving all the hotel costs. We're bringing them to us is much more cost effective. I know that the ticket item at the end of the day looks large and looms large, but it's really not. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity, and not just for our Title I teachers going to receive stipends, but I believe other teachers can also attend and register. I know my wife Christy is very interested. Bring the materials home, because it's not very often that you get names like that to come to your community. So, Jillian, I want to thank you and Giselle and your staff for making this happen. It's very exciting.
They are doing an amazing job. For example, when we had some of our teachers, we costed out this spring, some of our teachers who attended Ron Clark, the cost for them alone to attend Ron Clark is $1,500. And so the idea is that by bringing him here, we're able to get many more teachers. Currently, we have 394 teachers registered. And so the idea is that while it is a big ticket item, it is being spent in a way where we can have the greatest impact for our community, and demonstrate to our teachers that we value them by filling their bucket with people like Ron Clark and Principal L and the Get Your Teach On folks and Dr. Ruby Payne. I mean, these are, penultimate leaders in education, and we are thrilled that they are able to come to Tallahassee during those days.
Yes.
You say penultimate?
I did.
Wow, I've learned.
That's a word. Right?
Like
That's a word.
That's a Daryl Jones word. I like it.
English major.
Another initiative that we are launching next week, and it's in your packet as well, there's an invitation. We are working on something called Ready Freddie. And Ready Freddie is an initiative where we are expanding opportunities for our pre-K little ones in our Title I schools to participate in a backpack program where they will receive a backpack full of academic activities that they can do with their parents over the summer. So our little people who are 4 are going to go home because the academic year ends for them as well. They're going to get this backpack at the Ready Freddie launch, which there are 6 of them. That you have the invitation with the dates and times. There's a character in Ready Freddie, and we have Mr. Lee is putting together a commercial for us, and then they'll be doing activities. Ready Freddie goes on a tour of the world. There'll be activities tied to that, and there's a family and parent engagement night at Blaze Pizza on Magnolia, and the first 100 families will eat free. And there will be activities that are associated with academic games and how you can strengthen your child's achievement at home during the summer. And so that Ready Freddie initiative is launching May 20th and May 21st, and we are just thrilled that we're able to provide some services to our students in our Title I schools.
This is wonderful. Co-sponsored by the Greater Bond Neighborhood Association.
Yes, thank you. Yes, sir. Ms. Edwards has been very involved in the Ready Freddie initiative with Ms. Scott. They have coordinated this together.
She's here. We should have her stand.
Yes. Do I bring her up?
I'm sorry. I'm a second now.
All right, so I have those 2 things, and then of course I just wanted to share with you our Title I staff contact information, and then the communication plan. We have shared this with TAC and DAC, school leaders, as well as district leadership, and then individual and key stakeholder groups that have been identified to us. So if there's anything that you think we can do to make sure we get the word out, we want to make sure that everyone has the ability to participate where they can and feel engaged and a part of these two amazing initiatives for our community.
Well, I think on behalf of the board, we just want to congratulate you and your staff for coming up with these, because this is exciting and it fits right into the Title I recommendations. So I hope they all know about this, because, you know, their voice has been important in this process. But you are making it happen, you and your staff. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I will share the kudos with them. They are amazing.
They are amazing.
The speakers are outstanding. I'm familiar with two of them, Ron Clark and Ruby Payne, outstanding individuals. We've had them several times at Florida School Boards Association. So I think it's going to be wonderful.
Wonderful.
Good resources. Thank you.
I attended the Title I meeting last night. Again, the energy in that room.
Great.
And the intellectual capital found there, it's just really magical.
Good. I like magical.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Gregory. Next, we have persons to be heard.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we have two speakers.
Okay.
First speaker, Akila Wilson. If you would please come to the front, give us your full name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
Hello, school board members. My name is Akila Wilson. My address is 9171 Stony Point Court in Tallahassee, 32309. I'm a Montfort parent, but this is not Montfort. I was hoping to make it to the concert tonight, but I can't, so don't look at this, okay? All right. So, good evening. My name is Akila Wilson. I am a first-year English teacher. Directly prior to teaching, I was a school financial accountant at an LCS elementary school. Before that, I was a real estate broker and a CFO for a local commercial real estate firm. I made a hefty salary as a real estate broker and, decided to go into teaching. I have 2 LCS graduates and I have 4 kids that are currently in LCS schools. I myself am a Rickards graduate. I segued into my dream career of teaching after a self-imposed hiatus to deal with an autism diagnosis for my 8-year-old son. Teaching was always a dream of mine. And anyone who knows me knows how very excited I was to become an English teacher finally. I'm here to bring light to my experiences with the new teacher mentoring initiative. My situation hopefully is an outlier, and my words are meant to help you make the best decisions for future teachers. I really want you to listen to me. My mentor teacher, she did not want to be a mentor. Okay, she was very subtle about it, but she made no qualms or qualifications. I could tell that she was inundated with other responsibilities that, are typical for, team leads. And I was really not going to receive the guiding hand that I needed. I requested a change in mentors, and there was only one other teacher that was qualified. Very anxious woman, sweet as apple pie, but not mentee, mentor material at all either. Having been in senior management before, I sensed that she just wasn't the mentoring type. She observed me only once, and although our classrooms were adjoining, I didn't receive any feedback from her, the entire school year. If new teachers are to feel welcomed and becoming acclimated, I think that you need to look beyond tenure and years of service as the qualification. Just because someone has been teaching for years does not mean that they want to be a mentor teacher. And you can't really force someone to be a mentor. My saving grace was a third-year teacher right across the hall from me. She took me under her wing, and she helped me along. Without her, I would not have gotten highly qualified this year. Okay. She took me under her wing and helped me along. She did it for the love of the profession and not the supplement. She got paid nothing other than the chocolate that I would bring her. Without her guidance, I don't even know where I would be, because teaching is not parenting. It's totally different. Okay. Her guidance, coupled with my own advocacy and self-imposed teacher observations, was what got me through this academic year. Also reading the Conscious Classroom Management that you guys provide. I read it from cover to cover because I needed help a lot. I might add that during this year, I also got hit by a car and diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and I got my master's degree all at the same year. So I had a lot going on. So I just want you to look at that. Just look at the teacher mentor program and try and get people in that really want to be mentors. Okay?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, the second speaker, Stanley Sims. Please come to the podium, give us your full name and address. For the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Stanley Sims. I'm very thankful that I still live at 1320 Avondale Way. Since Christmas Eve of last year, I've suffered 3 strokes. So I'm glad to be here today. I'm here, first I want to commend this board and thank you for extending benefits for pre-K students in all Title I schools. That is the type of education, money, taxpayer dollars driving down to individuals who have been disenfranchised for a very long time, and I commend your bold efforts. My next comment is in reference to 32304, the poverty. The superintendent has been very gracious in allowing me and Dr. Taylor to share with him our vision for bringing fair wage jobs to Tallahassee, to these designated poverty-stricken areas that enhances technical training, entrepreneurship, and advancement. And I went over, I've met with a plethora of people, but I met with Miss Shelley Bell. We was referred to her to look for opportunities that we could partner with the county and the city. I met with her yesterday, and along with Curtis Richardson, very complimentary of the program, very interested. In lieu of time, Ms. Bell had some concerns that I think that unwarranted. One of her concerns were she was pretty much strongly suggesting that we have other key community stakeholder partners commit to our program before she felt comfortable referring our program to you. I've worked in this community, Ms. Boyden, a long time, and I did express to her that I felt that as an insult. For as long as I've worked in this community, that my word is my bond, and I share with her in the proposal the list of key partners who Dr. Taylor and I had already spoke to, and she questioned whether or not I represented that partnership accurately. So what I'm doing, I am going through and putting it all through email, and Mr. Superintendent, I'm going to forward that to you. And the reason I'm sharing these concerns, because I've also...
Time.
Can someone ask me a question so I can just say this 2 seconds?
I believe your time is up, sir.
Time's up.
Thank you for your comments.
But you can email us anytime. Thank you.
We just had a murder today, 2 o'clock. Can someone please ask me a question?
What
30
question?
seconds.
Yes, I will.
Thank you, Ms.
Three.
30
I'll
seconds.
get killed otherwise. But go ahead, Mr.
30
Hurry.
seconds.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Please.
I did not want to overlook school board member Mr. Darrell Jones, that we had met with him and his supervisor, OEV, and they are very favorable of the program as well. Thank you.
Mr. Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Sims.
You can beat me up,
No, it's okay.
colleagues.
It's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
Items of consent. Do I have
Motion
a
to approve. Second.
move by Ms. Striplin, second by Ms. Rasmussen? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes. And now we're going to scroll on down to 19. Items for consideration. We have a public hearing and adoption. Someone want to come up and explain that to us?
Good evening, Mr. Superintendent, Madam Chair, school board members, this policy at 1901 formalizes the method in which the district will provide law enforcement officers to the schools. Formalizes the terms school resource deputy, school resource officer, and school safety officer.
Madam Chair, this requires the opening of a public hearing.
Okay, I'm opening the public hearing. Do we have any people who want to speak to this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and we're open to a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Bowen, seconded by Ms. Striplin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I assume there were no questions. Anyone have a question? Okay, thank you, Mr. Hunkier.
Thank you.
1902, see Mr. Albritton coming forward.
Evening, Board, Chair, Superintendent. Item 1902 is Superintendent's recommendation for RAM Construction's guaranteed maximum price as construction manager at risk for Fairview Middle School Phase 5A renovation of Building 3 and 4. The guaranteed maximum price is $997,959.03. And again, this is a phased project as funding becomes available.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Striplin, second by Ms. Bowen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind a little bit about that. So we're still waiting on guaranteed maximum price for the entire project, but this will be some work we can start over the summer. We're moving some air conditioning units around in Building 3, the main classroom building at Fairview, and then also doing some renovations of the restrooms. But the final number will probably come back, what, Danny, the first part of June, maybe, for the entire project, for this entire phase. We've already finished the gym, had the ribbon cutting. We've already paid for Building 1, the administration building, and new cafeteria, new kitchen. And then this is the big part of the classroom, complete classroom renovation. And this first $900 or $1 million basically gets us started.
Thank you.
Long lead items also.
Do I have a motion?
So move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bowen, second by Mr. Jones. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. 1903.
1903 is the capital outlay budget. I would like to thank Miss Martha Chauncey for all the hard work she does preparing and leading and guiding the capital outlay committee each year. 1903 is superintendent's recommendation, permission to advertise proposed 2019-2020 capital outlay budget for the school district of Leon County.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Striplin, second by Ms. Bowen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I would like to say that we had a lengthy presentation and discussion at the workshop yesterday and went over every item, and I know there's been a lot of work by the Capital Outlay Committee to look at these items, and I appreciate the work of Ms. Chauncey, our representative Ms. Bowen on that board, and you, of course, Mr. Albritton. Thank you so much.
Did an excellent job. Thank you.
Next is 1904, naming of school district facilities.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Hannah. We do ask for a waiver of Policy 7520 by virtue of a request from the Sale High School School Advisory Council as well as their Site-Based Decision-Making Council. They ask that the gym be named after Barry W. Taylor. It would be the Barry W. Taylor Gymnasium. I'm standing in the place of the proud principal, Tiffany Williams, who wasn't able to be with us tonight.
She's very pregnant.
That is,
Yes.
that is policy 7250 or 72?
Yes, 7250, I'm sorry.
25, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for
I
that
move
correction.
recommendation, if that's where we are.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Ms. Striplin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. If people would just speak up a little bit on the voting, I'm having trouble hearing people.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, we have 1905, distinguished young gentleman of America.
Yes, we discussed this at great length on yesterday, but this agreement comes before you. As you know, the Distinguished Young Gentlemen of America Incorporated has been in incorporation for 9 years and working for 9 years with male students within our community. They are asking for an agreement to be extended so that they can be housed at part of the Bloxham building, not using the building more than 12 hours per week, but providing educational mentoring programs, and I think their reputation speaks for itself.
I have a motion.
I move the acceptance of this recommendation, please.
Second.
Recommended by Ms. Bowen, seconded by Mr. Jones. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry.
Question?
Sorry. Do we have a closing date on that contract?
Yes, ma'am. Well, it'll be, you mean the entire thing? I think
I
it's.
think I see it. 2025.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we're in this until 2025.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did I take the vote?
Is there other discussion?
Are you asking
Is
questions?
there an exit clause in that contract?
I believe so.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
So if we wanted to terminate it earlier, it could, okay. I mean,
There's written information within there for both parties.
For cause, right?
That is
Without
correct.
cause.
without cause.
It would be without cause, yeah.
For example, if we didn't have the building
didn't have the
anymore
money.
or something like that, could happen.
Sorry.
Okay. Have I called for the vote? I'm sorry, we had it.
There was a vote, yes,
Okay,
and
all
then
right,
the
just wanna
questions
make
came
sure.
after.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. 1906, Superintendent recommends policy staff use of personal communication devices. Is someone going to speak to that? We get 2 on that, great.
All right, Mrs. Banks, I like it.
All right.
Good evening. We are requesting, there's 2 different policies. 7530.01, we're requesting to make changes to the wireless communication device policy for the district. It basically clarifies that district wireless communication devices are for district business only. It also requires annual supervisory certification that the wireless communication device is still necessary, and it provides criteria for who would be eligible for a wireless communication device purchased by the district.
753002 is another policy we modified. It's about district's personnel use of wireless communication device. And first, what does that mean, right? What it means is any mobile device, specifically the phones that we use for conducting business. So it talks about that, what those are, that we're supposed to use, employees are supposed to use these WCDs, as we call them, responsibly. They must use district-approved apps on the for official business. And that's going to go into something I will be talking about here in the next policy, is about how do we meet public records laws when it deals with texting. And so as Ms. McKinney-Williams will attest, we've been working on this probably for 2 years now almost, trying to get the right technology solution, which we think we have, and now we're trying to get the policy in place for that. Under 753002, it talks about the duty of the employee to maintain confidentiality when they're using these devices. And understand that any kind of communication you have on a WCD, if you're talking business, Leon County School business, we must be able to capture and retain that information for public records request. It talks also about our duty to maintain privacy, meaning where is it appropriate or inappropriate to use audio, video, and pictures. For example, you can't use the WCD in a locker room, to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen. So it covers that as well. And again, it says they must only use district-approved apps on this device. That's an existing policy that we modified. There is a total new policy called Conducting District Business Using Electronic Communications. And the state of Florida public records law is very clear here. Regardless of the technology used, anything that is a business record must be captured, okay? And this is governed by public records law and the public records documents and the retention schedules. We are governed by GS-1SL and GS-7, which explains what is a public record, what are these business communications, and how long you must keep them, the period of time. We must be able to comply and produce these records. the state's district users must use approved apps. Again, we're going on this approved app thing because we're going to come out with an app to be used for texting so that we can have that information archived. Smarsh that's going to be on the district-owned phones because that's a dollar per phone, so that gets real expensive if you go by phone. We'll be using that for district-provided phones, and we're going to be using the Remind application for anybody that's using a personal phone to conduct district business on that device. And that's something that teachers use already. It's a product they use already in the classroom for communicating with parents. So we're going to be we bought the enterprise version of that will archive all those communications that they have with students and parents and things like that. And again, all of us, all district employees, will have to certify annually that we understand the rules, what it is that you can use when conducting business. And then, of course, it states disciplinary action for those who fail to comply. And that's it.
For your work on this, do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Striplin, seconded by Ms. Bowen. I see a question on the floor.
I just have a comment.
Okay.
We, as school board members, statewide, there are 435 of us, I think, sit through a 4-hour ethics training every year. And even though we sit through the same ethics training every year for 4 hours, I still hear school board members that don't realize that business conducted on a personal cell phone or a personal laptop is still subject to the Sunshine Law. What are you going to do to train and inform faculty and staff and administrators?
We've already started that process. This week, we began the training of the administrative staff.
Okay.
And it's going to take us probably a couple months to get that done. And what we're going to train them is, it's a difference between if we issue a district phone, that's going to be Smarsh. Anything that's text on that's going to be captured. But the problem becomes when it's not a district issued phone, right? Because a lot of us use our personal phones. Teachers certainly do. So we're going to be using Remind for that. But what we're going to do, we're training district staff on if they have a personal phone, you're going to use Remind. If you got a district phone, you really don't have to do anything other than know any text you send on a district phone is going to be captured. So you may not want to be talking about your plans for dinner on that if you don't want it to be something that comes out later.
One of the suggestions from the attorney that made a presentation to us was that we have as a part of the policy a statement that there is no presumption of privacy. That was important to articulate. I don't know.
That makes sense to me. Okay. We can
Are there
add that
any
in
other comments?
No, just agree with
Okay.
her.
This is important training, and thank you for bringing this forward to us. We've had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Really quick, going back to that prior item, the DYG agreement, I just wanted everybody to know, I was kind of hemming because I wanted to find the provision. It's section 4 under term. It says that it will go through 2025 unless either party gives 120 days written notice to the other party. That is the termination provision that's set out in there. Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Great.
We are on
19.07.
19.07. I see Dr. Gale coming to the podium.
Yes, good evening again. This recommended change to the school choice policy takes into effect grandfathering. We already had 4th and 5th grade. We're including 7th grade now, which we already had 8th grade, and including 11th grade, we already had 12th grade. This was presented to DAC last Thursday, and it was approved. And so now it comes before you.
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Striplin, seconded by Ms. Rasmussen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Thank you.
And just a note, thank you guys for your speedy work on this and everybody for being agreeable to it. And I assume there'll be kind of a word to get out to the principals and filter down to the guidance counselors if they see an address change, this is a new.
Yes, ma'am. This is going to be advertised at this point. It'll come back before you again for a final vote on June the 18th. But yes, ma'am, it will. We'll let them know that it's in the process.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. 1908, partnership with Leon County School Board and Capital City Children's Day.
This is a, good evening again, this is a unique partnership, and what the Capital City Children's Day, they presented on yesterday during the agenda review, what we're saying is with pre-approval, they can use our logo on their information that they send out, and also we can disseminate this to our schools with our logo on it. That is the only thing that we're providing for in this partnership.
Do I have a motion?
I move the acceptance.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bowen, second by Mr. Jones. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move down to superintendent's comments.
Madam Chair, briefly, informational item first.
I'm done.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a jury trial of an incident that occurred at Leon High School a year or so ago, and the jury awarded a student $68,000. She was injured in a pep rally, and I wanted to make you aware, so if you heard it on the street or whatever, it wasn't a settlement agreement. It was a case that we took to a jury, and they found us a percentage liable, 60% liable for her injuries. We also have some pending cases I'll continue to report. As a part of that, I mentioned the other day when we have different lines of insurance, and our professional liability line has a $25,000 deductible, which protects us in cases involving discrimination and wrongful termination and things like that in professional practices. Unfortunately, the personal injury and bodily injury, along with our auto policy, have much higher deductible limits. And I've asked Ms. Banks to look at that. We're in negotiations with PREA this summer to see the cost benefit of reducing the deduction, which we know will come at an increased premium. But we see more and more cases that are coming to bear when we're involved in accidents, or a child is injured on a playground. There's seems to be an attorney on every corner, and we find ourselves, Ozzie McMullen and others, defending us in not just our actions professionally, but also when there's a simple accident on a playground that unfortunately we've become a society that's settle things in the courtroom, and it comes at a cost to us. So moving forward, we're going to take a long, hard look at where we are as a school district and where our deductibles are and where our premiums are. But I did want to make you aware of this $68,000 plus some attorney's fees. And we have a couple other ongoing cases that we've discussed. Hopefully this will slow down over the summer, but again, it's something that it hurts me, it pains me, like I know it pains you. But unfortunately, this was decided by a jury, and we'll abide by that decision. On a brighter note, on a lighter note, tomorrow night is the Best and Brightest ceremony, award ceremony. I know Ms. Campbell will be there, as will 14 other of her classmates from Leon. And every single public and private and homeschool student will be represented there tomorrow night as part of Ron Sachs' initiative, along with the Tallahassee Democrat, Tallahassee Community College. It's probably my favorite event of the year. And if you haven't been, I strongly encourage you to go and listen to the resumes of some of these young people. It'll blow you away. So that's tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at Ruby Diamond Auditorium. And I encourage you all to try to come by for a little while if you can. So with that, that's the end of my remarks.
Forward to it.
Great.
Continuing concerns from board members. We have Mr. Jones.
My continuing concern remains traffic calming at Jim Lee Road and Orange Avenue. However, I do know that the superintendent and staff are making analysis of that and working in cooperation with our local municipal government to see what remedies can be made to ensure that student safety is heightened at that area for our pedestrian students who are traveling to Rickards High School. So thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for the work that you're doing to make that happen. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. New issues from board members. And are there any other concerns that aren't listed? is an open.
Well, I do have one continuing concern that I did mention that, and that's why I think this format of continuing concerns, if they remain on the agenda, then it will remind us of comments that we will have made in previous meetings. I'm concerned, not concerned, but I would like to be informed about the activities at Lively. We did say that when we voted on the name change, that they would come back and return to us to make a presentation as to how that new paradigm would affect their recruitment, operations management, how they were going to be sharing information about the nature of their programs, more information about the inroads that they were making, and most simply the impact of that name change and what benefit it would bring to their ongoing efforts. So I don't know. Again, not a date certain, but I would like to know that we will be agendaing a presentation of that sort from them soon to find out what the impact of that is, what marketing is associated with that name change, and the like.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, and so noted, and we'll make sure that happens. They're still trying to get a sign up that reflects the name change, but we'll make sure that happens.
Because and you remember part of the reason I brought that up was because here in our local economy, when I put on my other hat, we have a 3% unemployment rate, which is the lowest we've had since 2007. However, that means there's great opportunity for job creation in our community. And so to meet the needs of construction companies and other employers in our community, the demands for a greater and better equipped and educated workforce is greater now than it has ever been. And a part of that solution is going to be found in the graduates that come from our Lively Vocational Technical College. And so I want to know how we're engaging to respond to that workforce dilemma, because it is huge. Mr. Albritton will tell you every contractor that is working at our Leon County schools is having a problem is complaining about the paucity of skilled laborers to meet the demands of their construction projects. So the remedy and the solution is found in Lively, so I would like to find out what they're doing to respond to that.
Are you going to add to that too?
Just briefly, I thought at one point we had talked about having them bring quarterly reports anyway. I mean, maybe in addition to or as part of an update on the name. That was my recollection.
And my interest is dual enrollment. How many strides or what are we doing with dual enrollment? Is that improving? Is that increasing?
Yeah, I tell you, do me a favor. Let's all of us get through these.
Yes.
I don't know.
Get through graduation.
Yeah. And maybe look on the 17th of June.
Sure.
When we can kind of catch our breath and
Update.
have her come in and
Great.
Mr. Richardson come in and do a report.
Perfect.
Right.
While
Thank
we're
you so
making
much.
a list, I'll add on financials again. I know it's a chore. I get it, and they're not the only ones around the state that have had this challenge with presenting a profit and loss statement because money is filtered through the district to them, not like it is with other schools. So it's not a challenge. I mean, I get it's a challenge, but if we could keep working in that direction, that's been a long time being asked.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other continuing concerns? Okay, under new concerns, Ms. Bowen?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, you recall on yesterday, we had a discussion about cultural sensitivity training. And at that time, I said tonight that I would offer some additional comments about my thoughts on the importance of there being cultural sensitivity training. In view of our changing times and values, I think we must maintain a learning and work environment that acknowledges and embraces our cultural diversity. As a public school system, we must continuously provide our employees and students with the opportunity to learn more about themselves and each other. Being made aware of the cultures and histories of others may assist us in avoiding individual and systematic unintended offenses and misunderstandings. Each of us is accountable for the words we use and the actions we take. There is no room for either indifference or the lack of accountability. We want our school system to be a model to which others aspire. Cultural diversity sensitivity training is one way to assist us in attaining this goal. As part of the training, we can develop strategies that will enhance our professional and personal development. Effective sensitivity training and cultural training could assist us in promoting greater respect for each other, increasing workplace productivity, and healing broken trust. If we do this, thereby, I guess I should say, that would be providing a more inclusive, efficient, and emotionally healthy workplace environment. I recommend board members and superintendent that we immediately implement a district-wide model for ongoing sensitivity training. We must start now so that we will be ready for the fall.
Thank you, Ms. Bowen. And I believe we had an answer yesterday from Ms. Gregory that she was going to come back with a plan.
Yes.
So we do look forward to that. And are there any other new concerns by board members?
If I can add something really quickly, I know this is my last meeting, but there's something that I would
Go
like
for it.
to put under new issues. And I guess it's not necessarily an issue, but I just wanted to announce that the Leon High School Student Government Association will actually be hosting the statewide Florida Association of Student Councils state convention here in Tallahassee, Florida next year. I believe that's in February, March. And they've been hard at work. We have an entire committee devoted to that, but I don't know what the average attendance is, but these things are huge. And so we'll be hosting that at a couple different locations, but I know Leon will be getting some action as well as Florida State University and some other areas around town and the Capitol. So what an awesome and unique experience. And so I just wanted to put that out there. If there's anyone from other high schools watching, encourage your student governments to get involved and participate, because they bring in people from all over to train young leaders in how to develop your leadership skills and such. So it's a really awesome opportunity, and we're very excited to host everyone.
Thank you for all of you students who have been out there for this whole meeting, and you'll probably never come back again.
They said they were here to support Ashley, and by gosh, they stayed. They stuck it out.
So thank you for that. If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.